In today's video, I'm going to show you how to install a TV mount. I'm Kody with Up to Code. Let's jump into it. First off, we're going to show you the tools that we've used today. We used a level, and we also needed a straight edge because the level was too small. We needed some drill bits, tape measure, stud finder, drill, pencil. We did need a crescent wrench, a small square, and a screwdriver. These are optional if you have socket sets. We did need them because we use leg bolts. So that's it for the tools that we needed. And let's jump into the video. Before we get into it, what do you guys think of the new purple shirt? I've never worn this color before, so I don't even know if I look good or not. Step number one may seem obvious, but first you got to figure out where you want your TV and where you want it for height and width. So what we've done, just quickly, just to show you guys, we've decided that we want the TV at the top of the trim here. And this actually for my assistant, Alex. So, hey, Alex, thanks for the video content. We're gonna center the TV between these picture frames and the wall. So that's pretty simple. So that's step number one. That's, seems fairly obvious. Step number two is where it starts getting important. Step number two is unpackaging your mount. And essentially the goal here is to determine where the mount sits in relation to the TV. Is it gonna sit up here? Is it gonna sit down there? And that's the biggest thing to keep this install simple, is knowing that dimension so that you know where your TV is gonna sit relative to where the mount sits on the TV. So how you do that is first, you'll have to figure this out on your own. You'll have these mounting rails. There's a various combination of where they could sit in height. They'll come with all the bolts, fasteners, different gauges, different threads, and different lengths, and washers, and everything you need should be there. So we've already have these mounted. You can see that we have a screw here and a screw there. So we've already picked this height. We can shove these mounts further down, but we also got to keep in mind not to have these mounts sticking below the TV. So in our mind, this mount is a perfect height because it's essentially center of the TV. So we'll get into the details of how we figure it all out. So step number three, we're going to get into some math. We need to determine where these slots that mount to the wall sit relative to the TV. So we have our rails in place. We're just going to go ahead, arrows point up. We're just going to put this in this mount. So we've laid the TV down and we made sure that there is no garbage or anything on the floor. We've got to be super gentle. But the reason we had to lay the TV down is because I couldn't hold this up and get accurate measurements. So you can see that the mount is sitting all the way to the top of the bracket. You're going to need a square because it just helps me make a more accurate dimension. So I'm just going to hold my square on the ground and then I'll measure from there. And I always measure everything to the center. So from the top of TV to the center of my bolt hole is about 18 1/4. Another thing I'll record just while I'm here is center to center from my top row to my second row. So I just like to hold my tape there, 6 7/8. Now we're gonna go do some pencil marks on the wall. If you're anything like me, you like to make diagrams. So this is what we have thus far. So here, to be technical, is our elevation view. So we have 70 1/2 inches from the inside of these picture frames to the corner. So again, you always have to find center, 35 1/4. So we'll make that mark on the wall, but the point of all this is to know your dimensions so you can make some light pencil marks and you know that they're always hidden behind the brackets, right? We don't want to start marking walls right away. Then from a side profile, we have the TV and we have the mount. Now this is my slots for the top set of holes, mounting holes, and this is the bottom. So what was the dimension from the holes to the top of the TV was 18 1/4. We know that we want the TV flush to the top of the trim, and it's 13 1/4 from the top of the trim to the ceiling. So here we have 13 1/4 plus 18 1/4, so we have 31 1/2 from our holes to the ceiling. So yeah, so let's do that. We know, so this is what Kody does. 31.5. 35.25. Oh, look at that. I was so close. So, because I'm a lefty, light marks, people, light marks. 35.25, 31.5. So that'll be that's the center of the holes this way and the center of the bracket. In order to see this center line, I got to go about 1 inch above. I'll just make a super light tick. Inch above to about 9.25. So now that we have this line marked, and it's just marked like just a bit bigger than the actual frame, I want to mark this level line perfectly level down the center of these mount holes. And since I don't want to go crazy with pencil marks, I want to go about 1/2 inch past each side. So from center, I'm going to go about 9.25 on either side of center. And that way I don't have a 4-foot pencil line across my wall. So I'm just going to go from center, just a super light mark, 9.25 to 18.5. Then we're going to intersect right here because this is the center of our mounting holes. So I'll show you how to do that. If all you have is a torpedo, but you need to extend it to make it longer, all you need is a straight edge. So now that we have this top row marked and leveled, we'll just mark this 6 7/8 difference. I guess my leftiness is not helping the video today. 6 7/8. Let's see if my marks are any good. So you may have been wondering why this guy hasn't found any studs yet. Like, this guy must be crazy. Well, that's step 4. Now that we know where our bracket's gonna sit, now we can find studs, know where we don't have any studs. We can actually manipulate this bracket a little bit left and right in order so that we can hit something on center. So we'll show you that right now. So we found the studs. We have a few things going on. Now, first off, I typically like to confirm that that's the stud. Now, what I would normally do, now this is on my own job, is I would just pluck a screw a little bit lower so I don't mess up my mounting hole and just see if that screw sucks in tight. Then you know, yes, that is a stud. Then you can measure over 16 inches or 24, depending what your spacing is. And then when you stud find over here, if you find it and it lines up with your on centers, 16s or 24s, then you know that everything's lining up and working out. So now we know that here is the center of a stud. We know that from previous mounting. We also know that over here is the center of another stud. Sorry, I'm gonna get my head in there. About right there. So now at this point you have 2 questions to ask yourself. Do you want the mount perfectly centered, give or take a little bit, and just hit one set of studs and then do anchors on the other side? Or do you want to off-center the mount to have 4 bolts in 4 locations in studs and just have it offset from the TV? Now you'll never notice that, but you have to confirm that you can slide it that much off center and still mount to those rails that are on the TV. So option 1, the mount is centered to the TV. The I would use this slot right here. So it's right in there.
Show which one? This one. Okay.
Right? But then I don't, on the left side, I have to hit and use drywall anchors, which we have anyway. Or for plan B is we make sure we line up on 2 studs. So for plan B, I line up this slot where the stud is on the as far left as possible, and then confirm that this one still hits a stud, which it does right there. And I'm just gonna do a little mark here where center of the bracket is so I know how much off center I am. So I'll make that mark. So now I know that if I want to off center it, which we do, this is Alex's house, she wants it done pro, we need to confirm that we can off center that bracket 5 inches on the TV. So what I've done is I've orientated the TV and the mount in the same direction so I don't get confused on which way the mount goes. But essentially what I've done is I've found the center of the TV, and then I found that, made a tiny mark, and then I moved it over 5 inches just to see if the center of the mount can move that much. So I just do that. I have a pencil mark that I can see. Ooh.
Not quite, but pretty close.
Not quite, but pretty close. Within a 1/2 inch. Alex, are you happy with that?
I'm happy with that.
Okay, we're gonna do it. So step 4 was finding the studs, and then we had to decide if we could offset the bracket to hit 2 studs, or if we, had to stay in the middle with plugs here and studs there. So Alex wants to hit studs. From the last clip that you noticed, the holes did line up here and here. So we know that our fasteners will attach the studs. It's all good. The holes line up with the slots, if that makes sense. Next, I have to darken these lines and extend my level line. So I'm just gonna darken this center of the stud. I'm gonna extend my level line just so I can intersect that and I can see when I'm lining up the bracket. Next, I'll just plumb down and make my bottom marks. And I like to just circle them just so I know like that's an official mark that means something. Now let's do the test. So now I am gonna just confirm that these are studs. We did make some marks. We know that they're there, but I just wanna show you. That's a stud. That's a stud. And oldest joke of all time, found one. So step number 5 is fastening the mount to the wall. Now because we're gonna use these big lag bolts that come with the kit, you cannot skip this step. You have to pre-drill. If you use a bolt that fat without pre-drilling, chances are you will split that stud in the wall and these will be almost useless. It'd almost be better just to do a normal deck screw with a washer. So how to determine what size of drill bit to use, if you can see this, you want the drill bit about the same size as like the shank of the screw and smaller than the thread. So before you send all 4 bolts home, just make sure that your mount is perfectly level. So I have 1 screw tight, and then I just need to make this one small adjustment and then get the actual mount itself perfectly level, and then we'll send them all home and we can hang the TV. Next is time to actually hang the TV on the mount. So you're gonna need a second helper to do that. And then make sure you don't forget to put these security clamps on, and that basically locks it in. You can't lift it off the rail, so it'll never fall off. So with a little assistance, we got the TV on the mount, and we just had to tweak a couple little things, put the security bars on. Now we know that it's safe. We can pull it in and out, adjust it, and it won't fall off the rails. And one thing I will just note is if you are off centering your bracket from the TV, it does kind of skew it out of level a bit. So we just had to hit our adjustment screws. So luckily this mount had those, and yours should as well. So just keep that in mind. And with that, that video is a wrap. Make sure to send us a comment if you have questions, like, subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Anyway, first off, the first thing you want to, oh God.
My bloopers are going to be so good.
It's going to be a good blooper reel. You want to watch this video for the bloopers, people. My brain's staying focused.
Good job, Rain.
Good job, Matt Damon. Holy moly, Batman. I'm Batman. Or like this meme I saw was like, solve world hunger or go to space for 5 minutes. It's like, let's see if my holes line up.
That's what she said.
Get my butt in there.
Nope.